Alright, sorry about that. It chopped off, but as I was saying, for those that are done, go ahead and open up your, or go ahead and pull out your homework number 3, and I'm going to do 3 of number 1. The number 1 has A, B, C, D, E, and F. I'm going to do 3 of those with you, and the other 3 you should be able to do. And then when I come back on Friday, we'll definitely pick it up a notch in regards to the graphing of sine and cosine. So go ahead and pull out your homework, and we're going to do 3 of those together. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen here for those that don't have it or didn't get a chance to get it. Let me go ahead and pull it up right quick. Okay, the ones that I'm going to do with you, I'm going to do D, B, and F if I have time. I only have 15 more minutes left on this video, and I usually just make 3 because that's about enough, 45 minutes, and then between pausing and checking roll and all that, it takes some time. So we're going to go ahead and just try to do D as in dog, B as in boy, and F as in Frank. So let's go ahead and try that. I'm going to start off with B, and I'm going to teach you the long way because you may encounter a teacher or a professor that doesn't give you a unit circle. Actually, you're going to encounter a lot of professors that don't give you a unit circle. You have to actually draw it from scratch. And you're also going to encounter professors that don't allow you to use a calculator. So you need to actually learn how to do it by hand. Notice that the instructions say find the exact value of the following. Exact. So please don't use a calculator because that's going to give you a wrong answer. Exact value. So let's go ahead and work with that. Let me go ahead and select the pin that I want right quick. Okay, so I have, this is 1B. Oh, I don't like that one at all. Let me choose one that I'm going to like. Probably this one, okay. Okay, so we have 1B. And please excuse my handwriting because this is in paint, and I really don't like to use paint, but it's probably the easiest for me to instead of typing. So I have cosecant of 11 pi over 3. Okay, the first thing you should notice is that I really do not like to use cosecant, cotangent, or secant. I want to always convert everything into my regular trig functions, that's sine, cosine, and tangent. So you should make the connection that cosecant likes to pair up with sine. So the relationship between those two is that they are reciprocals. Reciprocals meaning we can flip them. So this is what I mean with flip. Do you agree that this is the same thing if I were to put it over 1? Okay, good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and flip it, and when I do flip it, I change it to its appropriate partner, which is sine, and it becomes 11 pi over 3. Now, what should be the next step? You are just beginners, so you really don't know where 11 pi over 3 is. So your next step should be what? That's right, it should be to convert. So I'm not going to go ahead and give you the steps to convert in this video. I think most of you all feel very comfortable with converting, and when you convert, you should get what? So go ahead and take a couple of seconds to convert. Okay, so when you convert, you should get that it is 660 degrees. Very good. Okay, so now your next thing to do is, well, you got to figure out where 660 degrees is on your quadrants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly draw an X and Y axis. Now let's use some common sense. We know that one revolution, or in other words, one full rotation, is 360 degrees. Well, what is our angle? Our angle is 660 degrees. That means that you have gone past the 360, so you add 90 again. So 360 plus 90, this here will give me 450. Add another 90, and it will give me 540 over here. Add another 90, and it will give me 630. And add another 90, and it will give me 720. So in other words, what quadrant is 660 degrees in? It's in quadrant 4. Very good. So if we go ahead and draw our triangle in quadrant 4, or right triangle to be specific, and I will say that from here to here is 660 degrees. Well, remember, if we just want to know this part. So remember, you're in the 4th quadrant. That generic formula that we created last week was 360 minus theta. However, it's going to change a little bit because we're no longer in the 1st rotation. Now we're one more rotation over. So instead of 360 minus theta, it's going to be 720 minus theta. So what is 720 minus 660? That will give you your reference angle. So what is 720 minus 660? It's going to be 60. Very good. So that's going to help you figure out that this little piece right here is 60 degrees, and it's going to be a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now you should know what those legs are. Across from the 60 is always the radical 3. This is always 1, and the hypotenuse is always 2. More specifically, though, it's going to be negative radical 3. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we can go ahead and answer this question. Equals 1 over sine of 60 degrees. Or 660 degrees, but we're using the 60 degrees as our reference angle. So if we look at the 60 degrees, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, I think we should all be familiar now that this side is the out. Remember when we were reviewing from that quiz, we said that the outer ones, when we were forming that bow tie, the outer ones, the outer legs were opposite. On the x-axis, those were adjacent. And the ones inside forming the x, those were the hypotenuse. So now if I do sine, that ratio, that's the so part, that is opposite over hypotenuse, I get negative radical 3 over 2. Well, what is this method right here? That method is copy, change, flip. So I'm going to copy that 1, I'm going to change that division to a multiplication, and I'm going to flip that 2, that radical 3 over 2, or negative radical 3 over 2, and it becomes 2 over negative radical 3. When I multiply by 1, anything times 1 is itself, my final answer will be negative 2 over radical 3. And that's a perfectly good answer. The next one that I'm going to do is 1D, D as in dog. Okay, so I have 1D, and that is sine of negative 5 pi over 6. Now remember, I don't like to deal with negative angles either. So I don't like cosecant, secant, and cotangent, and I definitely don't like negative angles. So I'm going to try to avoid using them the best that I can. Well, I know that there is an identity out there that tells me that sine is an odd function. Remember that. And remember the identity was sine of negative x is equal to negative sine of positive x. So basically, if worse comes to worse and you just want to break it down into layman's terms, basically what you have done is just taken this negative and placed it outside. So if I rewrite this, it will be negative sine of 5 pi over 6. Okay, now my question to you is, go ahead and convert it and tell me what it is. So go ahead and convert 5 pi over 6. And when you convert 5 pi over 6, what do you get? I'm going to go ahead and continue on this part right here, down here. So you should get negative sine. Never forget that negative. Some of y'all tend to forget your negative signs. It becomes what? 150 degrees. That's correct. Now you have to find that reference angle. Remember, it's either going to be 30, 60, or 45. So we got to figure out what quadrant we are in. So if you were quickly to draw your x and y axis, you're getting good at this. You should know that this one right here is 90, and this one right here is 180. So you should know that this will be in quadrant 2. Go ahead and draw your angle, form your triangle. And basically what this is saying is that from here to here, it's 150. I want to know this small piece right here. The small piece right here in the triangle. Remember, the generic equations we worked on last week states that if you are in quadrant 2, you have to say 180 minus theta. So in other words, 180 minus 150, and that will give you 30. So your reference angle will be 30 degrees. So I'm going to place the 30 over here. Well, if this is 30 degrees, this right here must be 60. Now we know that across from the 60 is always the radical 3. This is 1, and this is 2. But more specifically, it's going to be a negative radical 3. Let's go ahead and label our legs. We know on the x-axis will be our adjacents. Outer legs will be opposites. And inside will be hypotenuse. So if we continue, it's going to be, let's not forget our negative, sine of 150. Remember, we're going to use 30 as our reference angle. So let's take the sine of 30. If we say sine is opposite over hypotenuse, it's going to be 1 over 2. And what is 1/2 times a negative? Well, it will just be negative 1/2. That's our answer. I don't know how much time I have, but if I stop at the next one, that's fine. We'll just go ahead and continue it on Friday. But you should be able to do all of number 1, basically. You should have been able to do it without me, but again, some of y'all need that little extra push and review. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with the next one. 1F, F as in Frank. So I'm going to go ahead and open a new one.